In this lesson today, we are going to go through and do our component capture. We've been briefed on the design system that we need to build, and we're going to go through and start taking inventory of all the components that we're going to build and the tokens that we're going to need. Now, in the brief, we're going to use Xbox Cloud Gaming's website as our point of reference. That's going to be the project that we're working through. They're ready to scale. They want us to build out a design system. They've already built their first MVP site. It's up and running. The beta went well, and now they're ready to scale it across the board. And now they need to have way more designers working on it, and they want us to build that design system for them. Now, you don't have to use the Xbox Cloud Gaming website if you don't want to. Feel free to use any other website that's out there or product or app that you have. Now, the reason we're doing a website is it's really easy for us to grab screenshots from it, and we've got some plugins and tools for us to dive into and really get some information out of there. Now, if you're working on an app, you're going to have to do a lot of screenshots on your phone or simulate it through QuickTime to grab those different screenshots. Just choose something that is exciting and kind of cool and will help you really unpack the world of design systems. To start off, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to set up our Figma. So I have an empty file here. The only thing I've already pre-created is a cover, and I've posted a note card in here that I can use on my various pages. So I'm going to drop that in here because I want to put that here. This note card is just from FigJam. I just went into FigJam, copy and pasted this note card in here so that I can use this to take notes as we're working through our component capture. Now, I just have one page here. I'm going to duplicate this page a bunch because I want to have this note card in all of these in case I have notes as I'm going through and capturing these various components. Now, I could be using a tool like our checklist. We have a component checklist that's downloadable below that you can use to reference that, or you can use the website like designsystemchecklist.com to really start to think through the components that you're going to capture and kind of use that as a point of reference. I'm going to just dive in and start taking a look at our components here. So this is the Xbox Cloud Gaming beta website. So right at the top, I can see there's a couple of key components. We've got a sort of hover button that's here. I think this is a button. Maybe it's something else. We've got an input field here. We've got an avatar here. We've got some cards that have animations, things like that. You can see we even have a scroller here. So we're going to go ahead and start capturing these. I'm going to go ahead and take some screenshots of the various components in different states. So when I interact with it, what happens? You can see we've got a hover and focus state here. So we're going to go grab this first one here. We'll copy this. We'll zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to throw that in here. And I'm going to go ahead and call this input field. And dive back in. We've got a, looks like it's a button here. So we're going to copy that hover state and then a non-hover state. And we are going to go to this and we're going to say button. And the reason I'm doing different pages for my components is it just helps with a little bit of the organization and clarity in here. Now, I could easily start dropping these all on one page, but I like to start categorizing these a little bit. So we're going to say default state here. And we'll capture hover over here. So let's take a little scroll through and see if we have any other buttons on our site here. Is this a button? Aha, that is a button. So we're going to say hover state, default state. Let's get that. Copy, paste that in here. Looks pretty similar to that, but a different size, that's for sure. Do we have any other buttons? We've got this button down at the bottom. So let's get that. Get that. We'll copy. I'll show a hover state. Show this state here. Any other buttons that we see? Our scroller component actually has a little button as well. So we'll get that. We'll get that. So we'll copy. Copy this. Drop shadow on it too. Look, are there any button? Ah, we got a little X button here. So we'll get that. Drop those in there. So you can already start to see there is a lot of different styles of buttons in this product. We've got a big green button down here. This looks like a big old primary CTA. So I'll drop this in here, copy that, drop this in here. So looks like we've got quite a few buttons. Do we have any other buttons here? What happens if I click into, okay, I can see profile. Oh, we got another button up here. That one looks like it's got a couple of different views. And these are actually swapped. So let's move this over here, put that there. I'll drop this in here. So that's pretty good state of buttons. Do we have any? Oh, we have focus states. So as I tab through, I want to capture my focus state on these various buttons. Let's go back to our main. Let's also have focus states. So we want to grab it. Now, these are the type of things that we want to capture because these are really important for accessibility. There are folks who don't, they use a keyboard to navigate their site or different websites. And so we want to make sure that we are capturing these different states. So we're going to zoom out here a little bit. Move this over. I'll switch this to focused. All right, awesome. All right, I noticed that we also have some tabs up here. So I'm going to grab a screenshot of these tabs. I'm going to tab through and see the focus state for that tab. So, and then we will create a page called tabs. In tabs, we will drop all of our screenshots. Paste this in here. Paste this in here. And then I'm going to leave myself a note. Make sure to check activated. So currently I'm signed in because I want to look at some of these additional screens, but I want to check the deactivated state as well. For the icons, so I understand what those look like and things like that. Looks like we have something here too, and this looks like a list, probably a list item to be honest. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that, do this as well, and then we're going to tab through so we can get that focus state as well. There are 3 states of our list items. So let's create a new thing here. We'll call this list item. We're going to drop all of these in here now. And then do we have any other list items? Yeah, these are kind of like list items. They're kind of interacting the same. Can we get all 3 states in one screenshot? Yeah, we can kind of see those have different statuses too. Got a star on one. I've got a circle on another one. So we've got some other things for us to double check in there. We also have an input field here. So we're going to keep track. Oh, we've got another button that we didn't see before. And then let's go back to our button inventory. It's getting pretty full. We got a lot of different buttons here. This looks like just an icon button with a different set of colors, but we can start to see how we're going to define out the components already, leveraging Figma's variants and other options there. Definitely want to get this input field because this one looks a little bit different than the other input field. The background color is a little slightly different than what we had up here. So let's copy this, drop that in there. 2 different input fields there. Let's close out of there. Let's take a look at this menu. Oh, okay. So we've got a modal, so or a menu, right? So we can add a menu here. We've got a couple of things in the menu that we can parse out. So we're going to create a new thing. We're going to do atom, so -- atoms. And this is following atomic principles. This is just the way that we like to organize things. You don't have to organize things this way if you don't want. Tools. Go here and go. This is following sort of Brad Frost's methodology in naming components and the way of building UIs. If you're interested in diving into that a little deeper, definitely check out our other videos on the other course where we actually unpack all of that stuff. So we've got a menu here. This is going to be an organism because this is going to hold multiple components, and we are going to paste this into here because we're going to do a little command drag. And we're going to say this is a list. So we've created a list. Copy this. Actually, we're going to duplicate this page because it's already in there. We're going to come up here and we're going to say divider. Do the same thing. We're going to command drag down so we can get our divider. And then we're going to copy this and we're going to go to our list item because we've got some interesting things in here about icons. So we have a header icon and a prefix and a suffix icon that can do different things and are in different colors. Let's look at this menu. Has anything changed? No, we kind of have that captured already. But we do have an avatar and an avatar lockup. So that's interesting. So let's copy this and we're going to add avatar here. Put this and do the same thing. Here we're just going to command drag this up so we can have our avatar, and then we're going to make a separate one for avatar lockup. So we've got that in there. Right, what else do we have? We've got these cards. There's a lot of cards in here. So we're going to want to capture sort of what these cards look like. So we've got two states on these cards. So we can just do a little hybrid here. And then we're going to go cards. Not that one. Let's get that copied in here. So there are two different cards, and we have this hover state, and then we have one with this little Xbox icon, and that kind of replaces itself out. We have two cards here as well, which have different hover states. So we're going to grab these two cards, and they all look like they have a pretty powerful drop shadow on. So this will be kind of cool to build out because we'll be able to play with some of the drop shadows. We've got a whole bunch of cards here. Oh, let's go back. Let's go back home. We've got in this little scroller component, we've got different cards for these elements. So we're going to grab this screenshot because these are two different cards, but maybe they could all be in one component. You know, maybe we can create something that's a little bit dynamic. These are similar to the ones above, just a different screen size. So we still want to capture that because we want to make sure that we've got all the different sizes. Oh, and this is interesting. This is a card element that we didn't even see before. We've got this little game preview element above. So I want to make sure we get those. So let's copy this, drop that in there, copy this. We're going to drop this in here. So you kind of see all the different states of the cards. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my Post-it note and say game preview banner. Game preview banner, making sure we have that. We also have these genre cards. So copy and paste this in here. So this is a really good element to have. And then with our cards, we also have these scroller components. If you hover over this whole component, you'll see that the scrollers show up, or the pagination buttons on the side. And there's actually two different ones that I'm noticing. So we've got this element here, which has this state, which is a hover state on this whole scroller component with a header. And then we scroll a little bit over, we have another button that shows up as it kind of goes off screen. So those are important to capture. And those are going to be molecules. So let's create a new page. We'll say scroller, or more, it's probably gallery. Gallery is a good name for it because it is a gallery of options here. So drop those in there. And then we have this one here, which doesn't have a header, but has pagination. So we're going to grab this screenshot. And we want the hover state as well. So we'll do two screenshots there. And we're going to copy this in here, drop that in, copy. And if you're wondering what I'm using to take the screenshots, I'm actually using CleanShot, which allows me to have sort of a history of all the screenshots that I've captured. So I can kind of go up there and see those and get back to them, and it stores them for about a day. So it's super helpful when you're doing screenshots and things like this. Another thing that we want to capture out of this is pagination. I spelled that right. And we're going to drop pagination right in here because this is an important piece. Make sure we capture that. All right, what else do we have on this page? We have our footer, and our footer has, looks like links in here. So this is going to be an important thing to capture. So let's grab that and we'll add a new page. Links. Drop that in there, and then we're just going to grab our whole footer. So we have a nice footer component, and this will be in organisms as well. And as you're following along and doing this with your site, you can categorize these however you see fit. The thing is that we really just want to capture all the different elements so we can actually work through creating these different things and seeing how those things function. All right, cool. So here's another thing that we didn't see before is our list item actually has a couple of different states here in the settings menu. So that's going to be kind of important to capture. Let's go back to our list item and we'll copy and paste that and drop that in there. And it even looks like these, when it is a selected state, has a different type scale. So that's important. We also have a toggle. So a list item can have a toggle in the option as well. So drop that in there. We're going to do a little command drag. We're going to cut this and we're going to create a new thing that's called toggle. Capture. Now, does this happen? Okay. Yes. Okay, we want to see what that looks like. So toggle turned on is green. And then we also have a little modal view. So we'll just capture this whole thing as modal. And then we'll capture this whole thing as modal. So that's menu. And the difference between the menu and a modal is the menu comes up underneath an object, whereas the modal here kind of just floats in the middle of the screen. And that's how we're going to define it for this video. Another thing that we have here is we have a scroller, which we didn't put on our atoms page. So we're going to move that over here, copy that over. We're going to command drag down to our scroller. So pretty good list of components so far. What are we missing? We haven't talked colors or type styles. So we're going to go tokens. Do that next. So colors and type styles are going to be really important to capture right away at the bat. That's the thing we're actually going to do right after this. After we do our capture, we'll start to define our color spectrum and our type tokens. So let's take a look at capturing some of those. So we're going to use a couple of plugins. These are Chrome plugins. I'm using Arc. Arc's allowing me to grab to use these. If you're using Brave, these will work on there as well. So the first thing we're going to do is CSS Peeper. This allows us to take a look at the different CSS files. So we can see all the different colors here. Here we can take a look at different type styles. So we can start taking a look at some of these type styles and capturing those things and actually looking at different objects and kind of how they're set up. So we can do that. But here, the most important thing is the colors. We want to grab all of these colors and put those together. Now we can export these if we need to. Figma can't really import that in. So I normally just grab a screenshot of this and we'll do this. This will be probably a couple of screenshots as we are identifying all of these different hex codes. And the reason I'm just grabbing all of these right now is because we're building the design system. So we need to build an actual color system from these color styles. We can't just grab the hex codes and drop them in there because we're going to want different options. We need some scalability in here. And if we just grab these default hex codes and just worked within here, we might not have that scalability that we need. So for example, the greens might actually be on a spectrum, and we want to make sure we set those up that way. Our whites might be on a spectrum. Our grays might be on a spectrum. And we'll kind of work through that together when we dive into the color tokens area. But this is a perfect way to get us started. The next thing we want to do is type tokens. So same thing with type. We want to take a look at how can we go ahead and grab the different types and the different scales. Now, the cloud gaming website uses a specific font, 2 specific fonts. We're going to switch them to something close when we actually go through the type video. But right now, we're going to take a look at the different type that we have. So what we want and what's important for us is looking at these different stats, because this will help us define out the different scales that we're going to need as we're working through our product. So for example, I want to look through here, we can see a couple of different type styles. Maybe we can dive into one of the games. Go here, and we can take a look at what is this type style. All right. So we have this font. We have this font. We have this font. We have this font. So you see, we're just capturing some of these font styles and putting those in here. Now this is the long and sort of, honestly, it's kind of a tedious way to do this, right? We're kind of going one by one, we're finding the different fonts, putting them in there. The other thing we could do is we could go into developer tools and we could start looking at the fonts like that if we wanted to. But there's also other tools that we can use, so we don't have to necessarily do this. So I'm going to go to a plugin called HTML2 Design. So this is a really nice plugin that allows us to pull in different design elements. So let's go to a new design file. So if you're using HTML2 Design as your plugin, open up a new file. And then let's take the page that we were just looking at. We're going to hit import. Now, while this is thinking, it's going to pull that website and it's going to turn it into a bunch of Figma layers and all those things in there. Why is this kind of nice for a website? This allows us to pull in the different type styles and all of that stuff, not set up in Figma styles yet, but at least gets those in there so we can start extracting them from the actual site itself and pulling those aside. So this is going to be really important when we start to figure out our type scale, because then we don't have to take all those screenshots like we were just doing. We just kind of have those ready and available to us. So it's going to take a little bit as it's building here to input everything. Error occurred, our service field low content. Oh, okay. All right, well, I guess the site went down. So we can't do a site that has gone down. So let's take a look at the one I pulled in earlier so you guys can check this out. All right, so this is the site that was generated out of the free version from HTML2.design. So you can see all the type is already set up. Now I have Bandshrift already installed. We're going to change that when we actually work through the site itself. But here we can start to see the different font sizes that they're using, and this will help us define out all of those different type scales and things like that when we go set that up. So that's what we're going to do. We'll eventually pull all these out and we'll kind of organize them and we'll build our system on that. Very cool. So that is component capturing. Really, the idea for this is it's going to start setting up the Figma file for our design system. Our design system is going to look very similar to this, but we're going to start building out components, documenting the things that we want as we're building, and really getting those things started. But first, we have to define our color tokens and types tokens. So we're going to do that in the next videos. Before you move on to the next video in the series, make sure that you've captured all of these components for your design system, because that's the thing that's going to set up you for success for building the rest of your components. We're building a whole design system together from start to finish for an existing site. So that's what we did. We captured all the components that we're going to need to at least get that homepage up and running. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video and you want to dive deeper into setting up design tokens in Figma, you can check out our premium course called Getting Started with Design Systems in Figma. This lesson you watched is actually a video from that course. In each video, we cover the foundations of building a great design system and share powerful Figma templates to get you started and make your design system process just a little bit less crazy. So if you want to gain confidence in your design system skills in Figma, this is a great place to start. You can head over to shipwright.design to learn a little bit more.